Hello folks and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to walk you through a module which I've built on Kubernetes. So I've been getting a lot of requests from people in my college and other folks that they want to have resources which will help them to start building apps on Kubernetes. And since it's a very vast topic, I wanted to have maybe one module which covers a large portion of it to at least get you started, building apps. And then later on you can develop over these ideas and form new concepts. You can also go ahead and learn more advanced things once you have this foundation right. So my idea with this module which I was making is you need to have some understanding of what this world looks like, what are the different technologies that you are going to play with, for example Docker, Kubernetes, how these things work together, and how you can employ all of them into one workflow where you can start creating apps on your own. So this is a project which I created for Cryo and Cryo Projects Hub. So I'll just go over to my browser window right now and let's check out Projects Hub. So yeah, I'm in my window now. Projects and search for it. There it is. So there's a lot of different projects for different languages as well. So you don't need to have. So there is machine learning project, the JavaScript projects, app development projects as well. If you scroll down, you'll see a cloud projects tab here. So I'll just go over here and just close this one. So inside cloud projects, you'll have the project which I built, learn to create apps on Kubernetes for beginners. So let's just check this project out and we'll follow through. Okay, yeah, this is the beaver thing. I need to close it off. So yeah, it has opened now. Now you look at on the left side, there is a list of 6 tasks which I've made. And this is the first overview. So this is how you get introduced to all of these tasks. So let's just scroll down. And here you can see I have 2 stages and 6 steps. So what are these 2 stages and what are the 6 steps? So the 2 stages comprise, the first stage is the part where you just build your container and don't deploy it anywhere yet, like only on your local machine through Docker. The second step is where you take your containers and deploy it on Kubernetes clusters, right? And what are the steps listed here? So the first step would be learn how to create project layout. So whenever you're building a huge project or any other project for personal projects as well, so you need to have some fixed defined standard layouts, right? So when you have a standard layout, there are a lot of different benefits. So we'll look into all of those. And then the next step is containerizing your application. So I'll make you write a simple application and then make you build a container on top of it. So we'll see how that is done as well. After that, we're going to set up a workflow in GitHub using GitHub Actions. So what this will allow you is to have a very straightforward process in which you can just click on push and all of your code is automatically deployed and images already created. So we'll look how that is as well. In the next stage, what we'll do is I'll make you set up a cluster somewhere, maybe on Azure or other cloud providers or even on your local machine. I'll show you how you can do that. And then there's introduction to Kubernetes. So we'll scratch the surface with what Kubernetes is, how it works, what are the different functionalities, and how you can go about creating your own clusters, creating deployments and other objects. We'll look at all of those. And the last step would be to run your app on Kubernetes. So we'll take the application which you built in the first stage here, which you containerized. So we'll take that application and run it on the cluster. So this will be the last step. So yeah, we should go about starting this module right now. So you'll see the first one is the project layout step. In this one, I just introduce to you what are the different benefits of having a standard layout. So these are the benefits listed here. You can go read through them. And mostly it helps other people to explore your projects and understand what you're trying to do. So if you have a standard layout across all projects, so people who are already familiar with the layout will be much comfortable in understanding your project. So that way you can have contributors as well. This is one of the benefits. There are other benefits as well. So if you look at the references here, I've listed out references for different languages where you can go check out the layouts. I'll just maybe go over the Go project layout with you. There are other tips as well, and for each milestone I have an expected outcome tab, so you can look at how your outcome should be at the end of this stage. So you can check out this really huge photo to understand that okay, at the end of this milestone I should have a directory which somewhat looks like this. Yeah, and the other tips as well which you can refer. So yeah, as I told you, I will check out the Go project layout, so we'll go over there. So this is the GitHub repository for the Go project layout. If I scroll down and see the readme file here, right? So this is the place where you can understand how you can actually build Go projects. So when I scroll down, I'll see what are the directories my project should have. So the first directory should be CMD. So what does CMD do? What is the main application? So all of the applications that you build, the executables are all should be inside the CMD file, right? Then there's internal, there's package. Package hosts all of your libraries, code, and all this stuff. Vendor holds those stuff which you take from other people. So this is an idea of how these things should be. And when you understand all of these things, you internalize all of that, you'll have a project which looks somewhat like this. So you'll have a CMD package, you'll have a package folder, you'll have other things like all of this stuff. I don't use any vendors in this case. Maybe if you have vendors, you can also have a vendor directory here. So this is the idea behind it. So let's go to the next one. I think it's pretty clear now. So the containerizing application, this is a really important step. So what we do in this case is I'll make you really build a simple container. So there's also a handy video here. If you look at this video, you'll understand a lot of what goes on behind containers and why they're really important. So this is a really nice video. I liked it very much. Yeah, so I'll introduce you to Docker, what Docker is. So if you don't know what Docker is, you can check out the links which I have here, which I have here, for example, in the references as well. Mostly they're related to Docker files. So just to give you a very short summary of it, so Docker allows you to build containers on top of Docker files. So it's like a container runtime. It takes your Docker files as a recipe and then builds an image on top of it. Using this image, you can build multiple containers. So all these containers are just instances of this image. So how is this image defined? This image is defined using Docker files. And if you want to learn more about Docker files, I do have the documentation here, but I can just, search for, sample Docker files. So maybe I just go to the images tab and select this one. I just wanted to look at how Docker file is, what the different commands are. So you'll see there are some commands in all caps here. And then there are some other commands which you're a little bit familiar with, like git clone, npm install. And then there's things like cmd, gulp serve. So all of these look somewhat familiar, but they have a very basic syntax that they all follow. So how do you understand all of these commands? So when you go back to your project here, you'll see the references which I've listed here. You can check out the Dockerfile commands cheat sheet or the best practices. It is a really nice documentation for helping understand how these things work, and the cheat sheet will help you to come back to all of the different commands and get all of the information in really concise way. So what is from, it will give you some example information about it, what is maintainer, what is run, cmd that we looked at in the sample. So all of these things here will be really helpful when you are building Docker files. Yeah, so you can check this links out when you're actually building the project. So I just close them for now. And yeah, when you're done with this, you'll have at least a Docker file which you can build an image on top of using Docker commands. And what are those commands? You can check out in the Docker command line reference here. So you'll get a hang of Docker, at least in this case. When you scroll down, you'll see bring it on. So these are things which I encourage you to explore, but are not really necessary for you to do it at this stage. So all of these are somewhat advanced concepts. I'll be making another video where I talk about all of the different points listed here. So do check it out. I also have a video which I have posted in this particular bullet point here. So this is about container networking. So when you want to explore more about how containers work behind the scenes, what happens when they are spawn on. So all of these things will be talked about in this particular video. You can check this out. And this is the expected outcome. So when you run this Docker command, Docker run, and this image, you'll see whatever command which you have. So this is just an expected outcome. You can verify it when you're actually building this project. So this is done. Yeah, so what are GitHub workflows? So GitHub workflows will be a set of GitHub actions, and GitHub actions help you in GitHub actions perform very basic tasks. For example, building and pushing Docker images in our case, and maybe there are other actions as well. So there are a lot of different actions which you can explore. So yeah, this is a video which I made on this entire milestone. So whatever this milestone covers is in this video entirely. So you can do check it out. But you also have a list of references here and documentation. So just like I told you about Docker, so Docker, I just missed out of a single point. I'll just go back and just tell you. So Docker, you don't need to build the images. You don't need to write all the Docker files yourself. You can always find them online. Just like we searched for Docker file and found the samples. So you can, whatever use case you have, you can always search for Docker files and get those out. And there's also Docker Hub, which has which is like a repository of all the different Docker images which people push. So when you are building an image, you can also push your images to Docker Hub so that other people can use as well. Yeah, so this is how Docker Hub looks like. So these are the images which you push, and you can also search for the images here. This is the idea. And then I'll go back to my GitHub workflow. And similarly, for GitHub workflows, you also have a repository of different actions. So if you check out Awesome Actions is just a GitHub repository where you find really cool community actions available. And you can check out the marketplace as well to find out different actions which you want. We'll be using an action built by some other people in this particular milestone here. So you can, maybe when you are free, you can check out this action and see how it is built to understand the anatomy of a GitHub action. And just like other projects, other milestones, you also have an expected outcome screenshot here. So when you're done with this, you should have something like this in this following picture. Now it comes to actually setting up your Kubernetes cluster. So in this case, what you do is you mostly build a cluster in the first place. Don't know what Kubernetes is at this stage, but you're going to set up a cluster so that when you actually learn about Kubernetes, you can try out all of your commands on a cluster which is readily available to you. So you can maybe create clusters on Azure, GCP, AWS, or you can do it on your local machines. Now, what is the difference between all of these? Which is better for you? So all of these links which are provided here will help you choose between what environment you deploy a cluster in. And moreover, I'll just show you how it is done in maybe Azure. So I'll just go to my portal in Azure. This is how the portal looks like. I'll click on Kubernetes service here. Then you can you can also create it through the command line, but you can also choose the UI as well, whichever is simpler to you. And you can click on the add function. It will ask you to maybe fill on different parameters, and then you can just create. It's just a matter of few clicks. So this is how you can set up a cluster in Kubernetes. And I won't go over the process right now because it takes a lot of time. Just jump back to a milestone here. Let's turn it off. And yeah, whenever your cluster is set up, you can run this particular commands in your command line to see if all of the resources are correctly deployed or not. We'll see what kubectl is in the next steps. So here is the part where we actually get to understand what Kubernetes is. So let me tell you, kind of till now, whatever we have done is we have created an application, we have built a container on top of it, but we have not deployed it on a large scale. Like we're not publishing a container to huge computer systems. So if you think about it, if you're running the container on your, if you're running an application on your local computer and you want other people to access it, you may not want your application service to die when you switch off your laptop, right? So you don't practically keep a laptop on at 24/7, but you need a service to be available at all times, correct? So the laptop is not the ideal way. Your local machine is not the ideal way to deploy an application. So where do you deploy it? And moreover, if you think about it, if you have a spike in user traffic, for example, a lot of people start using an application, you might need more computers, right? Your own local machine, single local machine won't suffice. So maybe you purchase new machines and then say the traffic dies down. So what do you do with extra machines in this case? So all of these things make local deployment a bit costlier and also hard to manage. So that is why we use softwares like Kubernetes and cloud providers like Azure, AWS, and other things. You can also run Kubernetes on your own bare metal. Like you can have your own cluster. Don't need to use Kubernetes service managed by the vendors. But mostly Kubernetes allows you to plan and orchestrate your pods across different nodes. This is the idea behind Kubernetes. And you can check out this on the video on Kubernetes, which really talks about how Kubernetes helps. This is really informative video. You should go check it out. And apart from that, there is this diagram which I want to talk about. So this is the it's somewhat a rough architecture of what Kubernetes is. It does not cover all the parts, but is sufficient to get you started on it. So the node which talk about are the different computers. So node 1 is a computer. It should be node 2. Okay, no problem. So these are different, different computers, maybe in different regions or other zones. This is the part is called the control plane, which controls all of your deployments. So kubectl, which you saw in the last milestone, is just a tool which clients can use to send commands to the Kubernetes cluster. For example, if you have a Kubernetes cluster deployed somewhere, say for example in the Azure portal which we had. So on Azure servers, I have a cluster and I want to interact with it using my own local machine. So what I do is in VS Code, I'll just set up kubectl, and then using kubectl as the tool, I will manipulate, I'll create new deployments, I'll create new containers and all those things inside of my cluster. So this is how you access the API server. Now the API server exposes all the different things like creating, deleting, checking out logs and all these things. So the API server talks to the kubelet. Kubelet is the agent inside a particular machine. So every machine will have a kubelet. This is an agent of the API server. So it carries out all the different instructions inside a particular node. For example, creating pods. And what are pods? You can check it out on your own. I won't give a lot of spoilers here. And inside pods, you have container runtimes like Docker, which create the containers inside of it. And then you have a load balancer, which exposes it to end users. For example, if you want to deploy an application to the public, you can check out different services. Load balancer is just one of them. There are other services as well. So all these things are just to get you started on it. And I've written something about kubectl as well. And there are a lot of links here. You can go check them out. References as well. So architecture in depth. So if you want to understand this architecture in more depth and explore more, you can check out all these references. Yeah, so this is this step. Now we go ahead and actually run our application on Kubernetes finally. So what it does is I'll tell you how you can take your image and then what is the process in which you can tell Kubernetes how your application should be run. So there should be some configuration file, right? So this configuration file is written using YAML. So I'll just tell you what YAML is and other things here. I'll also tell you that containers are not run as such in Kubernetes. You need to take them. You need to have some objects like deployments or pods, and the other things as well, other controllers as well. So learn more about those in this links which I provided. So do check them out. And also, as I mentioned before, I'll be talking about these things in another video, bring it on part. So once you're done with all of that, you run this command and see if your pod is actually running on Kubernetes cluster or not. So I hope you have some idea of what this entire project is about. I do hope that you check it out and complete all the steps. You can reach out to me if you have any errors, any doubts in this case, any questions. And also do check out the bring it on part, so it will help you, expand your learnings in Kubernetes. So that is it for now. I really hope that you start as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.